Okie dokie, Pickle. Let's talk about the goings-on in the 3rd Ward down there in H-Town as the Houston Cougars have hired Willie Fritz to be their next head coach coming over from Tulane. We talked last week about the Dana Holgorsen experience and the Dana Holgorsen, what went right, what went wrong with Dana Holgorsen, and how we more or less kind of diagnosed the issue. And I think that one of the issues, and maybe one of the core issues that led to Dana Holgorsen's downfall at Houston, was a culture issue within the program. I think that is something that is fair to say, that there was more than just the wins and losses on the field. It did not feel like there was a cohesive and positive culture within the Houston program. Is that a fair assessment, would you say?
Mm-hmm.
And that's an issue. That's an issue moving forward. Those types of things, those are not separate. Winning on the field and a positive culture are not separate. They are intertwined, and one may argue that they inform the other, right?
Well, and especially when if you take a look at like the state of Texas and college football as a whole, there are times, and obviously it ebbs and flows, but there are times where there's a lot of just football-loving coaches, and they don't necessarily say culture is everything, and then there are times when there's a bunch of culture is everything guys, and I feel like we're in the time where between Joey and Jeff Traylor and all of them, it's
Rhett
like
Lashley,
Rhett
Sonny
Lashley,
Dykes,
coach, like culture is everything in those programs. Even
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian, he
Yeah.
said it on the college
Sarkisian.
football playoff things the other day. And it's like, so when you have one outlier, it's obvious.
So Dana Holgorsen's gone, and they have gone in a very different direction. And they have hired Willie Fritz to be their next head coach. Willie Fritz has been the head coach at Tulane for the last 5 years. Is that right? Oh, no. Last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years. I apologize. The last 8 years. One thing about Willie Fritz, right off the bat, that is very different from the conversation we had yesterday about UTEP hiring Scotty Walden. Scotty Walden is the youngest FBS coach in Texas. He's 34. Willie Fritz is right now the oldest head football coach in Texas at 63. He will turn 64 before he coaches a game for
crazy.
Houston. He is the oldest coach at FBS. And so that is in an era where they've been hired. It's been a lot of young hires, right? Mike Elko's in his 40s, right? A lot of young hires. This is on the other end. This is an experienced coach. This is a guy who has skins on the wall. And the skins on the wall are impressive. At his last 4 jobs, Willie Fritz has won a conference championship. That has got to be a class that does not take long to call roll. He has won consistently, and he has won everywhere. Okay? He won at Tulane. Before that, he won at Georgia Southern. Before that, he won at Sam Houston. Before that, he won at Central Missouri. Before that, he won at Blinn. He won 2 national championships at Blinn. It's probably where he got his. It's really like where he got his start back in the '90s, back at Blinn. And that kind of belies another but another feature, I would say, of Willie Fritz's value to this job. He's not a native Texan. He was born in Kansas. He didn't go to school in Texas. He went to Pittsburgh State in Kansas. He's a Kansan. However, starting in 1984, he had a stretch of about 10 years, longer than that, really, where he called Texas home. And he has a history within this state. He was a GA at Sam Houston. But after that, he went and was actually a 1-year assistant at Willis High School. Go Wildcats. Before he went and he took a couple years at Kansas, back home in Kansas at a community college. Then he goes to Sam Houston as a DB coach, gets a head coaching job at Blinn, leads him to a pair of national championships, gets a head coach at Central Missouri, leads them to a couple conference championships and rankings and the playoffs. He goes to Sam Houston, leads them to 2 Southland Conference championships. He gets his first FBS job at Georgia Southern, leads them to a conference championship in his first year. He then moves over to Tulane. And Tulane, it's important to remember, Tulane was not some powerhouse. Tulane was a relative football afterthought for a long, long time. And he came in
and won a New Year's Six Bowl.
He won a Cotton Bowl.
Yep. Against USC, who is a perennial powerhouse.
And went to 3 conference championship
games. Yep.
At Tulane. Here's what I'm driving at. I can't tell you what kind of scheme Willie Fritz is going to run. In many respects, he is like Joey Maguire in the sense that he is a schematic chameleon. Mm-hmm. He is a guy who's run a number of things. At Georgia Southern, they run the triple option, right? The one thing I will say that is a through line is that they're going to run the ball. Mm-hmm. They're going to run the ball about 60% of the time. They're going to run the ball a fair amount, and Willie Fritz likes to run the ball. But schematically, this is not a schematic ideologue. This is not a guy who says, we are a wide-open spread offense. We're going to go 5 wide and spread it out. He's not he made his bones, he's a defensive guy. So he'll have more eyes on that. But he's been a defensive schematic chameleon as well. Plays a variety of different defenses. Houston is hiring Willie Fritz because he is a program builder. Houston is hiring Willie Fritz because he is a culture builder. That's what he brings. His advantage, what he brings to this job, is what I presume the powers that be at Houston felt like was missing with Dana Holgorsen. Dana Holgorsen's a schematic guy. He's an offensive guy. This is a program builder, a culture builder. He is going to be a guy who wants to remake the culture, not remake, but strengthen the culture within Houston football. And that is why he's here. Mm-hmm. And frankly, I think that is a positive thing.
Oh, yeah, especially because, yes, they were in the Big 12 this year. I understand that. But let's be honest. The Big 12 is not what the Big 12 is going to be next year.
It's going to look different.
It's going to look different from everybody. I think that everybody gets a clean slate next year to say, all right, here we go. We're going to step up as the power, whether that be TCU again, whether that be Baylor or Tech or Houston now. They needed that clean slate.
Yes. I think Willie Fritz ticks a lot of boxes for Houston. Mm-hmm. When he was at Tulane, he was still recruiting a lot in Houston, right? He's got ties within this state. He is a guy who is going to have relationships within this state and especially down there in the Houston area as he was recruiting to New Orleans, right? That, as well as the culture part of it, makes this, in my mind, if I were, I'm not in these meetings when Houston is discussing who they want to hire. I think that is what put him over the top. The experience that he brings, the winning pedigree that he brings, as well as the cultures that he's built and the relationships he has within the state of Texas. I think that is ultimately why Willie Fritz is the new head coach of Houston.
Well, and I think, too, from a Houston perspective, just as an athletic department as a whole, I know that we talked about Houston being a saturated market when it comes to fans and getting people to buy in and all that stuff, but I think their basketball program has proven that when you have a University of Houston athletic program that has a culture to it, that goes out there and wins, those fans do show up. We haven't seen it in a long time, but those fans will show up.
Let me make a suggestion here. And this is not unique to Houston, but I do think that it is especially true of Houston. I've heard people say that Houston is not it's a pro sports town. Mm-hmm. It's a pro sports town, right? It's not a high school sports town. It's not a college sports town. It's a pro sports town. That's what I've heard.
I think it's
I would push back. Here's what I would say. Houston is a winner's town. Mm-hmm. Houston is a town that when you win, they'll show up. When the Astros were dragging butt for years,
No one was there.
Nobody was there, and they're a pro sports team.
Mm-hmm.
When the Texans were really bad,
You could get tickets for like 50 cents.
right? When the Rockets, and I think
They're still bad.
they're still kind of bad. I haven't paid a ton of attention to anything this year. They're not selling it out.
No.
If you win,
They show up.
people will show up.
You can't get single game tickets to their basketball games.
Mhm.
They're sold out.
Mhm.
It's all season tickets
Mm-hmm.
in the Fertitta Center.
Mm-hmm. I think this is a great hire, plain and simple. I think that this ticks a lot of the boxes that Houston was looking for, and I think that they identified what they think is the problem, which is a culture problem within the Houston. And there are very few people who have the pedigree that he has, not only as far as on-field wins, but as far as culture building is concerned, as well as ties to Texas. I think Willie Fritz makes a lot of sense. So there you go. Houston has a new head coach.
I think two of his daughters live down in Houston, so he was really,
that's
really
nice.
pumped about that. That's kind of one of those off-the-field things that make you feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now we've replaced 2 Danas with a Scotty and a Willie.
We're only talking namesake here. Seems like an upgrade.
Just saying, these are facts. Do we have any? Is that so? Now we have a Dave, we have a Willie,
We have a Scotty.
we have a. I'm going through it alphabetically. We have a Baylor, Houston, Rice is a Mike. SMU is a Rhett, TCU is a Sonny,
Steve.
Texas is a Steve, A&M is a Mike with 2 Mikes.
Mike's. Double Mike.
A&M, Texas State is a GJ.
Yeah, there's the oddball.
Yeah, GJ.
What is his actual
Texas
name?
Tech is a Joey. It's Gary Joe.
Gary? Yeah.
Gary Joe.
Because Gary's another 4-letter.
I think he's Gary Jr. maybe.
It's funny because it's a lot of 4-letter basic male
GJ.
names.
Yeah. Okay. Gary. We're going through it. Texas Tech. This is fascinating
Joey.
content. UTEP is Noah Scotty, and UTSA is
Jeff.
A Jeff.
It's all 4-letter
Wow.
basic names.
Is Willie Fritz the longest
Or
name?
Steve. Well,
No,
no.
it's 5 letters.
Willie.
That's 6. Scotty and Willie.
Yeah,
are
the
2
new guys.
longest. Wow. Just a bunch of Daves. Hey, thanks for watching this clip here on YouTube. If you like this kind of stuff and you want more of it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, you can watch us live every weekday at noon at TexasFootball.com, Facebook, Twitch, or here on YouTube. And if you want more of the best coverage of football in the state of Texas, check out TexasFootball.com and become a Dave Campbell's Texas Football Insider at TexasFootball.com/subscribe.